Snow White has become a problem. If we don't get rid of her, I'm afraid Disney will throw everyone in my world into the void.
I don't want people to see me as ungrateful or anything like that. I was nervous that that's what this makes me look like.
It is a colossal disaster.
People have real problems and no one gives a shit.
God, you're annoying.
Is that inappropriate?
Rachel Zegler never imagined that becoming Snow White would transform her from Disney princess to Hollywood punchline.
I mean, people thought my whole trajectory was fake, and sometimes I wake up and I think my whole trajectory is fake, but it's just a testament to taking chances.
But after weeks of viral memes and fan-fueled chaos, the writers behind Family Guy have allegedly broken their silence about their savage takedown that never even needed to mention her name.
Snow Blight!
Oh, look! Another relic of toxic masculinity.
The animation team known for unapologetic humor is reportedly standing firm behind their Disney roast. And while Family Guy hasn't issued any official statement, they don't do damage control. Sources close to the show claim their message is crystal clear.
Reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago. It's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
We said what everyone's thinking, because that's the genius twist. They didn't even say her name. One scene, one collapsing roller coaster labeled Disney stock, one screaming Peter Griffin shouting, "What is everything?" And just like that, Rachel Zegler became a metaphor for corporate storytelling gone hollow, for the death of fairy tale magic. The viral moment didn't just exist in isolation. It landed at the perfect cultural flashpoint, right when audiences were already feeling fatigued by endless reboots that seemed to miss what made the originals magical.
The movie was absolutely terrible. It's not the single worst movie I've ever seen, but in every way that the movie differed from the beloved 1937 original, it was worse.
Disney's Snow White wasn't just another remake. It was positioned as a flagship for their new approach to classics. With a budget reported to exceed $200 million and marketing that positioned Rachel as the face of a new Disney era, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Then came the interviews, those infamous sound bites where Rachel seemed almost dismissive of the very legacy she was inheriting.
Everyone's just ignoring my phone calls. Whatever, it's chill. I don't even care. I'm gonna be on a talk show tonight and I'm gonna talk shit about them on the talk show. Talking shit on the talk show. This is the one time in my life where if you have something to say, I don't want to hear it.
The original is weird and creepy, she said in one. In another, she promised Snow White won't be saved by the prince, and she's not dreaming about true love. Each quote landed like a hammer blow to fans who grew up treasuring the 1937 classic.
My princess, we could use some water. Peter Dinklage! They must have scrapped that awful CG. Oh my
Insiders speculate the Family Guy team didn't expect such massive reaction, but once it happened, they leaned in. They're not trying to walk anything back, one source said. They've done this long enough to know when they've struck a cultural nerve. Online, the silence from the show has only amplified the firestorm. No clarifications, no commentary, just the episode and the fallout. Because Family Guy didn't just drop a joke, they dropped a statement. A no-name-needed middle finger to an industry wrapped in identity politics and to a Snow White reboot that spiraled into one of the most talked-about PR disasters in recent memory.
Last time I checked, I'm old as hell.
It started with a gag. One line, 5 words delivered by an animated character who's made a career out of being clueless. But within 24 hours, "What is everything?" wasn't just a punchline, it was a battle cry. TikTokers were quoting it, Reddit threads were dissecting it, YouTube compilations of Rachel Zegler's most infamous Snow White clips were suddenly stitched together with Peter Griffin's voice. What Family Guy had done was hand the internet a meme that perfectly captured the exhaustion viewers were already feeling. A primal scream of confusion that resonated across demographic lines.
Than most people have in their entire body. He's perfect for Kevin, because the angles are so sharp.
It's beautiful, Peter.
Yeah, I just love William Dafoe.
What is everything? Wasn't just funny, it was cathartic. It gave voice to the millions who sat through reboots wondering why beloved stories were being stripped of their original charm and injected with messaging that often felt forced or preachy. Within days, the phrase became shorthand for Hollywood's disconnect from its audience. YouTube creators began making compilation videos titled, "What is Everything? The Disney Problem," and "Rachel Zegler versus the Internet Explained." Late-night hosts referenced it in monologues. Even industry veterans started using it privately, with one A-list director reportedly texting the phrase to colleagues after sitting through a particularly tone-deaf studio pitch meeting. Just days before, clips of Rachel Zegler had gone viral again for interviews where she dismissed the original Snow White as outdated, criticized the prince as a stalker, and insisted the remake had no love story. In isolation, those quotes were eye-rolling, but paired with Family Guy's chaos, they felt like prophecy. Because to many viewers, that was the problem. Everything was being rewritten. Characters they loved were unrecognizable. Stories once filled with wonder were now delivered with corporate-approved messaging. Audiences didn't feel seen, they felt scolded. Family Guy wasn't the first animated series to take aim. Long before Peter Griffin shouted, "What is everything?"
But I can't wait to quit social media. I'm like so ready to just throw my phone away. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I know it's gonna happen at some point. And everyone's gonna get mad at me and they're gonna be like, "No, we don't need." Or they'll be thrilled and be like,
"Thank God Rachel's getting off social media."
Component Placement South Park had already detonated the conversation with Joining the Panderverse, an episode that didn't tiptoe around its message. Where Family Guy left room for interpretation, South Park named names and handed viewers a full thesis on why Disney, and by extension Rachel Zegler, was at Hollywood's creative implosion. The viral line, "Put a chick in it and make her gay," became the go-to phrase for critics trying to articulate why modern blockbusters often feel more like lectures than escapism. South Park's takedown wasn't subtle either. They created the Panderverse, a multiverse where iconic movies and characters were systematically stripped of their original identities and reimagined with what the show portrayed as hollow diversity casting and forced political messaging. The animation showed studio executives literally checking demographic boxes while ignoring story coherence.
"There's two of me. Double the trouble, am I right? You can't check in. You're not an adult."
What made this double animated attack unprecedented wasn't just its content, but its reach. Conservative commentators were sharing South Park clips, while progressive film critics were quoting Family Guy. College professors were analyzing the episodes in media studies classes. Even Disney employees were reportedly sending the clips to each other through private messages. A dangerous sign when your own team members find the parody more authentic than the product they're creating. Before the roasts, Rachel Zegler was supposed to be the future of Disney, a new kind of princess for a new era. But between the press tour soundbites and now 2 separate animated shows roasting her, that future has started to collapse. The initial backlash to Rachel's interviews was intense. To her defenders, she was speaking truth to tradition. But to longtime Disney fans, it felt like mockery, not modernization.
Hey, no breaks! Get back to work!
Yes, princess.
And whistle while you work!
According to sources, the fallout behind the scenes was immediate. Planned appearances were reportedly scrapped, interview requests denied, marketing materials shifted. But those adjustments couldn't stop the bleeding. When South Park dropped their parody, Rachel became the center of a storm she never asked for. And when Family Guy followed suit, the public perception hardened. She wasn't just controversial anymore, she was a punchline. In the wake of Snow White's troubles, you'd think Disney would move cautiously. But if insider whispers are true, the studio might already be lining up Rachel Zegler for a live-action remake of Tangled. The reaction? "Not My Rapunzel" began trending within hours of the rumor. Comment sections exploded. The audience isn't ready to forget. The Tangled rumors hit particularly hard because, unlike Snow White, the 2010 animated film remains one of Disney's most beloved modern classics. It perfectly balanced traditional Disney magic with contemporary storytelling, exactly what the Snow White remake promised but allegedly failed to deliver. Fans feel protective of Rapunzel and Flynn Rider, seeing them as proof that Disney can create timeless fairy tales without sacrificing their essence. It's like they didn't learn anything. One viral tweet with over 50,000 likes read, "How do you watch your Snow White strategy implode and then immediately make the same mistake with Tangled?" Others pointed out that Rachel Zegler possesses genuine talent that's being overshadowed by controversy.
Like, in the eyes of the law, you have to be nice to me, and I'm an adult.
She's actually an incredible singer and actress. A TikTok creator with millions of followers noted. But Disney is setting her up to be the face of their identity crisis, and that's not fair to her or to audiences.
thing that she got the role not because she was a great singer, she got the role because she's a fantastic actor.
The backlash isn't about Rachel's talent, it's about trust. Fans feel burned. They were promised a modern fairy tale and got something that felt disconnected from the magic they remembered. For a company known for micromanaging every frame, Disney's recent silence around Snow White has been deafening. No public defense, no damage control, just vague statements and a noticeable shift in tone. According to insiders, that silence is strategic and driven by internal panic. When the backlash began after Rachel's interviews circulated, there were reportedly talks of correction. But then South Park aired, and then Family Guy. And suddenly Disney wasn't just dealing with fan frustration, they were the punchline of every cultural commentator. The strategy they reportedly settled on: go quiet, go dark, wait for the internet to move on. But it hasn't, because the roasts keep coming. With Snow White, something shifted. For the first time in recent memory, both sides of the internet are laughing, and neither is laughing with Disney. On the right, the critiques were immediate. The erasure of traditional romance, the rebranding of a classic into what felt like a politically charged lecture, and Rachel's soundbites fed the fire, calling the prince a stalker, the original weird, joking about how no one is coming to save her. But on the left, that's where the surprise came. Instead of defending the film, liberal commentators began joining the roast. Even influencers who once cheered reimagining started asking, why does this feel so hollow? We can't spin this one executive reportedly said. We're getting clowned from both directions. Rachel Zegler is caught in the middle, a young actress with genuine talent now transformed into a cautionary tale. Not because she gave the worst performance, but because she became the face of a film that tried to moralize before it tried to entertain. In Hollywood, redemption arcs are always possible, until they're not. Some stars recover from flops, others survive scandals, but the hardest stain to wash off, becoming a punchline. And that's exactly where Rachel Zegler finds herself, not as a fallen star, but as a meme. Preserved in cartoon satire, stitched into TikToks, and looped endlessly in YouTube compilations. There's still time. She's young, talented, and not without defenders. But to reclaim her narrative, she'd have to do something rare in the modern industry. Take accountability, show humility, and deliver a performance so compelling it drowns out the noise. Disney seems to be moving on. But even as they pivot toward Tangled and the next wave of remakes, the shadow of Snow White looms large. And with The Simpsons reportedly circling for their own takedown, this may be the first time 3 of the biggest animated shows all landed on the same cultural target. So, what do you think? Has Rachel Zegler been unfairly vilified, or did she push too far in rewriting a classic? And can Disney win back audiences after turning fairy tales into fuel for satire? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you're following this wild cultural fallout, and don't forget to subscribe, because when you're ready to hear what Hollywood really doesn't want you to know, the next video is already waiting for you.